Hi students, in the last video we have learned up to combination reaction and today we are going to start with a decomposition reaction. So it is a type of reaction from the chapter chemical reactions and equations. So now we are going to study about the decomposition reaction. So already we learned in the combination reaction. There what happened in the combination reaction? When two or more reactants are going to combine to form a single product is called combination reaction. But here we are going to study about the decomposition reaction. It is same opposite as that of the combination reaction. Here what is meant by decomposition reaction? Here decomposition reaction means nothing but here only a single reactant is going to break down to form two or more substances or products. So here the definition of this decomposition reaction is that in a reaction a single reactant is breakdown to form two or more products. Here decomposition reaction, the definition is that in a reaction a single reactant is breakdown to form two or more products is called decomposition reaction. Here we can see that breakdown of a molecule or breakdown of a reactant takes place through when you are going to pass the energy. When you are going to put the energy, then only we can break down the reactants. So how we have to put the energy or how we are going to give the energy to break down the reactants? That is like it is in the form of heat or sunlight or in the form of electricity. See here how to break down a molecule or how to break down a reactant means by the help of heat or passing the sunlight or passing the electricity to the reactants. Then the reactants are going to break down to form two or more products in the right hand side. Okay, already we have studied about the equations that in the left hand side the reactants will be present and in the right hand side the products will be there. So here it is opposite reaction of that combination reaction. So it is also called as opposite reaction of combination reaction. Why we are going to call it as opposite reaction of combination reaction? Because in the combination reaction already we have studied that when two or more reactants are going to combine together to form a single product. But here what happens in the decomposition reaction, when a single reactant is going to break down to form two or more products, that is why we are going to call it as the opposite reaction of combination reaction. So here we are going to see there are three types of decomposition reaction depending on the energy supplied to break down the reactant. That is there are three types of decomposition reactions. So that is first one, thermal decomposition reaction. Thermal decomposition. Second one, electrolysis. decomposition, and the last one it is photolysis or photochemical decomposition. So electrolysis or photolysis and thermal decomposition. So there are three types of decomposition reactions we can see. So here thermal decomposition means what? Already we studied that whatever the heat we are supplying to break down the what reactant. And sunlight means what? This is the photolysis or photochemical decomposition. And what about the electricity means we have to pass the electric energy to break down the reactant. So by this way we are going to study the decomposition reaction here, that it undergoes with the three types of decomposition reaction. We'll study one by one. So now we are going to study the first decomposition reaction, that is thermal decomposition So here what happens, these reactions are going to use the energy in the form of heat to break down the reactant. These reactions are going to use the energy in the form of heat to break down or break down the reactants. For example, I am going to give you calcium carbonate is going to break down in the presence of heat, and it is going to form the calcium oxide with carbon dioxide. So here it is calcium carbonate, and here it is calcium oxide, and it is carbon dioxide. See here, the thermal decomposition reaction, it means that whenever the reactant is break down by the energy, that which energy means heat energy. By the use of heat energy, a reactant is going to break down to form two or more products. So that is called thermal decomposition. So thermal means what? The heat energy. We are using heat energy to break down the reactant to form two or more products. Here I am given the example, that is calcium carbonate. Calcium carbonate is nothing but the limestone. Calcium carbonate is nothing but it is limestone, and here calcium oxide is nothing but it is quicklime. So calcium oxide is nothing but it is a quicklime. You can see here in the example that when a calcium carbonate is going to pass the heat, when you are going to pass the heat, you are going to get two products, that is calcium oxide and calcium oxide and carbon dioxide. So this is what about the thermal decomposition reaction. So next we will go through the second reaction type, that is electrolysis decomposition reaction. Electrolysis decomposition reaction. So the second type is electrolysis decomposition. So what is meant by electrolysis decomposition? Already we studied the thermal decomposition. Thermal means what? Heat energy we are using to break down the reactants. But in the case of electrolysis, we are going to use the energy in the form of electricity, or we are going to use electrical energy to break down the reactants to form products. So here these reactions use energy in the form of electricity to break down the reactants. See, we can say that break down or decompose the reactants, that we can say here. See, electrolysis decomposition reaction is nothing but these reactions are going to use energy in the form of electricity, or they are going to use the energy of that electrical energy to decompose or break down the reactants to form the products. For example, two molecules of water is going to break down by the electrolysis process. So here electrolysis process means nothing but here we are going to use the electricity to break down the water molecule, that is 2H2 plus O2. So we are going to say that here what happened, a water molecule is divided into hydrogen and say water molecule it is, and how it is going to break down by the electricity or electrolysis process. Here we are going to get that hydrogen with that oxygen. So this is the example of the electrolysis decomposition reaction. Another example also we can take, that is 2NaCl is going to break down to form 2Na plus Cl2. So that is sodium chloride is going to break down in the so electrical energy we are using here, or electric current you can take, or electrical energy. So here what happens, the sodium chloride is going to become sodium and chlorine. Here they are going to divide themselves, that is sodium chloride is going to divide itself in the process of electrical energy. We are using the electrical energy to break down the sodium chloride and it will become sodium and chlorine as the product. And the last and least one of this decomposition reaction is that is the third reaction of this one is photolysis or photochemical decomposition. Here the photochemical decomposition means these reactions involve the use of light energy to decompose the reactants. Here I am going to give an example that a silver chloride is going to break down by the sunlight to form, see here what happened, the silver chloride is breaking down with the help of the sunlight. Silver chloride is breaking down in the presence of sunlight and it is going to form silver and chlorine. So here the silver chloride, here what happening means the reactions, these reactions are going to use the sunlight to break down the reactant and to form the products, that is silver and chlorine. They are breaking down themselves by in the presence of sunlight. So already we know the decomposition reaction means it is breaking down of the reactants, breaking down of the reaction. A single reactant is going to break down to form two or more products. So how we are going to remember this one means decomposition means the decomposition itself, it is itself the meaning of the decomposition is breakdown. See, breakdown means we have to put energy or we have to pass the energy to break down something. If I'm holding this marker, if I want to break this marker means I need to put energy, then only it is going to break down. The same thing is happening in the decomposition reaction, that three types of energy we are going to use to decompose any reactant, that in the form of light, in the form of heat, in the form of electrical energy. So here we have given the example of the silver chloride, and it is going to be breakdown in the form of sunlight and it will form silver and chloride. Okay students, we studied decomposition reactions. Now we are going to study about the exothermic and endothermic reactions. So here exothermic and endothermic reactions. So exothermic and endothermic reactions are going to involve the heat or light energy it is going to absorb or it is going to release. Depending on that we can explain the exothermic and endothermic reaction. First I am going to explain the exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction, a reaction in which, what is meant by exothermic reaction? A reaction in which energy is released in the form of heat or light with the formation of product. So that is called exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction is nothing but a reaction in which energy is released in the form of heat or light along with the formation of products. Here for example, respiration, and burning of natural gas, or we can call it as combustion reaction. So here I'm going to write the reaction of this one and will explain later. So C6H12O6 is going to react with 6 molecules of oxygen and it is going to break down. So here 6 CO2 and 6 molecules of H2O, with that we are going to get the energy. And after that CH4 is going to react with oxygen and it is going to form CO2 plus 2H2O plus heat energy will be produced. See here, this is what the exothermic reaction. Exothermic reaction means what? Exothermic reaction is a reaction in which energy is released in the form of heat or light along with the formation of the products. I am going to give you the example of the last class that already we studied, that magnesium ribbon. What happening in the case of magnesium ribbon? When you are going to burn that magnesium ribbon in the presence of air, it is going to form a new product by the heat and light, white dazzling light that has given, and we are going to get the new product. So there what happened, it is burnt in the air and it is producing heat energy as well as the light energy. So that is the good example of this exothermic reaction. Exothermic means what? Energy is releasing. The energy is releasing in the form of heat or light. So that we are going to say that it has exothermic reaction. For example, I have given the respiration here. Why we are taking respiration as exothermic reaction? Because during the digestion, the food like rice, potatoes that contains the carbohydrates that will be converted into glucose. So that glucose is going to react with oxygen to break down the glucose molecules in the cells to provide energy, so that it is going to give us the carbon dioxide and water molecule and to the energy to the cells in the body. So already we know that the respiration process is an example of exothermic reaction. Here why we are giving that respiration as the exothermic reaction means during digestion, already we know during the digestion what happened, like the food like rice, potatoes that contains the carbohydrates. That carbohydrates are going to convert to the glucose in our body. Then what happens? How the glucose is going to give energy to the cell? By the breakdown of that glucose itself. So here a glucose is going to break down. Glucose is going to break down with the oxygen that we are going to respire, means inhale the oxygen. That oxygen is going to help us to break down the glucose molecule in the body, and they are going to release energy to the cells in the body. And another example of this exothermic reaction is that burning of natural gas. Also we can call it as combustion reaction. That burning of natural gas is nothing but when you are going to burn the methane gas. So CH4 is nothing but it is a methane is going to react with the oxygen molecule to form carbon dioxide and water molecule. With that you are going to get the heat energy. Here in the case of burning of natural gas, you are getting that the heat energy is released, and here in the respiration the energy is released. Okay, so the heat energy is released in all the cases, or light energy is released in the case of that magnesium oxide. Already we studied in the last class that magnesium oxide, I can write the magnesium is going to react with oxygen, it is going to form magnesium oxide. And always we have to write the balanced reaction or balanced equation, so it will be good to understand. So magnesium is going to react with oxygen to produce magnesium oxide. With that you are going to get the heat energy as well as light energy, we have already seen in the activity. Okay, so this is what about the exothermic reaction. Now we are going to study about that endothermic reaction. The definition is little bit changes. Endothermic reaction, a reaction in which energy is observed. Energy is observed. Energy is observed. See, the simple definition of the endothermic reaction is nothing but a reaction in which energy is observed in the form of heat or light along with the formation of products. Same as exothermic reaction, only we have to change the sentence, that is observed and released. Releasing means exothermic, observing means endothermic. Now we are going to give the examples for this one, that is photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is the best example of this endothermic reaction. That is 6 molecules of carbon dioxide is going to use 12 molecules of water molecule in the presence of sunlight. and chlorophyll. It is going to form the glucose molecule plus water molecule. So it is water, oxygen, and it is glucose. Here what happening means the photosynthesis reaction. Already you know the photosynthesis process, that it is going to take place in the plants, in the green plants, in their leaves. That is the by using the carbon dioxide and water molecule in the presence of sunlight and chlorophyll. Here what happening, it is observing the sunlight, means the light energy is used by the photosynthesis process to get the energy. See here already the definition itself, it is saying that a reaction in which energy is observed. Energy, what we have to do in the endothermic reaction, we have to observe the energy in the form of light, in the form of heat, or in the form of electricity. So like here in the form of energy, energy is released in the form of sorry, energy is observed, energy is released means that is exothermic reaction. There what we are doing, we are releasing the energy in the form of light, heat, okay. But in the case of endothermic reaction, we are observing the energy in the form of light or heat. That is, I am going to give you the example of this endothermic reaction is that photosynthesis. Already the photosynthesis will take place in the plants, that is in the green plants, they are in their leaves by the use of the sunlight and the chlorophyll. Here we are using the sunlight, means we are observing the sunlight, means the light energy is observing, the light energy is observed by the what plants, and it is going to form the energy, that is glucose and oxygen. So these are the types of exothermic and endothermic reaction, and these are going to give us that energy is releasing or energy is observed on the depend of that two things, that we can divide that it is exothermic and endothermic reaction. In simple way, that exothermic reaction and endothermic reaction we have to remember, means exothermic means we have to release the energy, and endothermic means we have to observe the energy. For that exothermic, we have given that burning of natural gas, and another example of that exothermic reaction is respiration, and endothermic reaction is that we are going to observe the energy in the form of light or heat. For the example, that is photosynthesis. So in the today's class we covered that decomposition reaction and types of decomposition reaction. So can you guess that how many types of decomposition reaction? There are three types of decomposition reactions, that are thermal, means heat energy we are going to use to break down the reactant, and electrolysis of decomposition means there we are going to use electrical energy to break down the reactants, and in the third case photolysis or photochemical decomposition. In that we are going to use sunlight energy for breaking down of the reactants to produce the products. And apart from that, we studied today in the class that exothermic and endothermic reaction. Exothermic means already you know that releasing of energy in the form of light or heat, and endothermic means that also you already learnt that what is meant by endothermic means the endothermic reaction is nothing but we are observing the energy in the form of light or heat. Okay students, so in the next session we are going to start with a new different reactions, that is displacement reaction and double displacement reaction, that all will study in the next session. So up to that, thank you and subscribe our channel for more videos, and any doubt regarding the topics you can